And it's as if they feel, wow, now I'm 18, now I'm 21, and I'm no longer going to be involved in the things of the local church. And as I travel around and I look at different churches, I realize that many of our churches are great hairs and no hairs, okay? And so we really need to keep our young people at home. And so I really want to emphasize that the faith of our fathers is to be their faith as well. There's many scriptural illustrations of falling back, going back to old ways. The Old Testament lists the aspect of a backslider, and so that is fairly predominant. I don't think I have to explain that too much, but what a terrible thing. You're on a sheet of ice, and you're doing a Michael Jackson moonwalk and going backwards, you know? That's no fun. So you want to make sure that you're going the right direction all the time. I think the book of Hebrews is a strong admonition not to turn back. These early Christians were tempted to go back to Judaism and to revert to the ways of the old life. And whoever the author was to the Hebrews had to remind them over and over again, don't bring that. Christ is so much better. Christ is better than the angels. Christ is better than the sacrificial system. Christ is better than Judaism. And you have this list of Christ is better. And that is the way that we want to make sure we're going. So that's the thought for camp. Hopefully everybody has a Burden Bears brochure, or every family has a Burden that's hard to say. Burden Bears brochure. And we'll talk about that as we get into the presentation. All right, so I've got the part on the MRBC and a part on the camp. And I do want to give an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have. Some of you might be saying, what is the MARBC? What is a MARBC? So we are obviously in the state of Minnesota. That's easy to understand. We are an association. We are not a convention. We're not a conference per se. We have no authority over churches. We are just a group of churches who have agreed to fellowship and work together so that our works can be stronger as a result of doing that. I'll take the C next. Churches. We're a group of churches. There are some groups out there that they are a fellowship of pastors and lay folks in the church, and that's not who we are. We believe God is still working through the local church today. Christ said, I will build my church and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And so we want to make sure that we are working through the church. That is the agency that He has announced that He would bless. We are unashamedly Baptist churches. I tell people, over and over again, I said there's not necessarily anything wrong with other churches or groups or even other Baptist churches for that matter. But I say that rather than having a ministry that is always negative and we're coming down on what this group does or that group does, we are really emphasizing that we are a Baptist group and we are unashamed of that heritage, and we are therefore picking up the mantle and going forward with it. And so it's not that we have a negative connotation, the whole world is wrong, everybody's wrong, but this is the way that we're going to go, and we invite you to join with us, and we believe that this is what best represents New Testament Christianity. The question I get asked the most, what is a regular Baptist? Does that mean that all other Baptists are irregular? Maybe, I don't know. Our neighbor, when we first moved to Bass Lake, invited us for a fellowship time to get to know the neighbors, and she kind of quieted the crowd down. Okay, I got to ask her all this. What is a regular Baptist? Does it have anything to do with your diet? Yes, we eat a lot of fruit, have Metamucil to make sure that we can retain ourselves. The real short Baptist history lesson is this. You've heard of the Southern Baptist Convention. There used to be a Northern Baptist Convention. The Northern Baptist Convention eventually, at the turn of the 20th century, became riddled with modernism, European thought, where they denied a lot of the fundamentals of the faith. And for a while, in the early 1900s, the Northern Baptist Convention was kind of tolerating this. We can turn it back to a more fundamental conservative mooring. And as it turned out, it was just so entrenched in many of the churches, they could not do that. And groups here and there were falling out. there was a group, the Baptist Bible Union, that started to try to do things together with the Northern Baptist Convention, but emphasized their fundamental roots, but that really didn't take a good strong footing. And so in 1932, there was a group of churches that came out, and they chose to call themselves Regular Baptists because they wanted to get back to what was known as regular historic Baptist teaching, emphasizing the fundamentals of the faith. You say, well, what fundamentals were they denying? They were denying the literal virgin birth. They were denying inspiration of scriptures. They were denying the return of Jesus Christ. They were denying the bodily resurrection, little bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ. And so these are some of the fundamentals that were being disputed and debated back in the day. And so that is what we planted our banner on. Now, as the days and the years went by, some of those fights are no longer there. And so then, I remember when I was in college, that the rallying cry was on separation, that we are to be separate from those that are engaged in those kinds of activities, false teaching and that. And so maybe through the 60s, 70s, early 80s, that was the rallying cry. And now the question is, what is a regular Baptist today? What is our rallying cry? And we're still, quite frankly, trying to define some of that. There are so many things that are going on in our world and our society. Just combating that is significant enough. But we do believe that we are very distinct and unique from other fellowships that are out there. Now, I'm just going to use some that are in Minnesota. The old General Baptist Conference that is now known as Converge, there are some distinctions between where they are and where we are. And so if somebody's going to say, what about the Minnesota Baptist Association? You guys are a member of both groups. Minnesota Baptist Association, I always tell people, they would be our kissing cousins on the ecclesiastical tree, if you will, okay? We are so close. We share the same history. The CBA was a group that, the Conservative Baptist Association is a group that came out of the Northern Baptist Convention, I think 1946 or something like that. And in Minnesota, they retained their identity as the Minnesota Baptist Association and has always remained strong and fundamental. And so that's why I say we're very similar, we're very close. You can compare our doctrinal statements and everything. And that's why you fit into both groups. Okay, I spent more time on that than what I wanted to. All right, what does the NARBC do? Well, we do a lot of fellowship events and activities. So there's things to do for young people. We plan some rallies and organizations to keep our young people busy. We have fall retreats. And again, we don't just plan these things and slap things on the calendar. They are of a benefit for you if you attend these things. And usually there are stronger numbers than if you just hold like a leaders retreat in your church or a men's retreat because we're cooperating with several other churches in these events. We also have groups or events for our pastors. So there's our pastoral fellowship. I think that was about 2 years ago when that picture was taken. Not only fellowship, but benevolence. This is where you can pick up your Burden Bearers brochure. And so this is what I'm going to talk about for the next couple of minutes. Burden Bearers is a ministry that is designed to aid pastoral families who are going through times of hurt and crisis. It could be a health crisis, and now there is a financial emergency that comes up as a result of that. Now, I will speak first person to this. Normally, we give out our gifts in an anonymous fashion. I did receive a gift from Burden Bearers, and so I feel like I could give you a little bit of an idea on how this helps. We do have insurance, but insurance did not cover anywhere near the total cost of the operation that I had back in May. And so Burden Bearers came along and provided a gift for our family to be able to pay the remaining most of the remaining balance that we had due for that operation. What a blessing that is. Sometimes a pastor will receive a phone call and they have a loved one, maybe a parent, that is on their deathbed. And it's just been announced they have cancer. They have limited time to live and they need to get away, or maybe they have to go to the funeral. And so we want to be able to provide a gift to help them to be able to get away and do that. I will share this with you, and I have no idea what your pastor makes. I have not been paid to make this announcement or anything, but the pastors in our churches are woefully underpaid, okay? They're woefully underpaid. And so when a crisis happens in a pastoral family, that can be a major issue, a major decision, and it can cripple their ability to financially pay the bills and also minister, because that's a heavy burden that's that Pastor so-and-so received a gift for whatever. We just kind of keep that between us, them, and the Lord. Folks, at MARC contribute twice a year. And the way this is worked out, it's spelled out in here, you can sign up as a family. And if you sign up as a family, you will be placed on a mailing list. And that mailing list goes out twice a year. And so you'll get a letter in the spring and a letter in the fall. And it'll just say, now is the time to contribute toward the Burden Bearers Ministry. And if you're able to do so, that's great. Suggested gift, $10. I would share with you that it's been $10 since the 1980s. We've never changed that. We've always kept it suggested gift. But the gifts come in significantly more than that. I know we have one family that gives $500 every time the call goes out. Others give $150 and so forth. And so we have some resources that are pooled into the MAREC so that we can give these gifts out. And then as gifts come, or as needs come up, whoops, I'm hitting the wrong button, I think. There we go. Whoop. See, I got too trigger happy. There we go. Then as the funds come in, we hear needs that are represented, then we give gifts to those pastoral families. So I want to share with you a couple things. One, sign up for this ministry. It's a very profitable ministry for you to be engaged in the burdens of others. And you can't completely remove their burden, but you can help them a great way, and that provides great assistance. Second thing I want to share with you about this ministry is my ears are not low to the ground in Marshall. I don't know what's going on here, or your neighbors to the north on video, or what's happening over in Sleepy Eye, and well, we are members of Mankato. We better know what's going on in Mankato. But anyway, I'll just share with you that, we don't always hear what those needs are. And so if your pastor has a need, because I'm sure he's not going to call me up and say, hey, I have a need, and we need, all this money, we don't know where it's going to come from. He might do that, but for the most part, the pastors don't do that. So I hear about from folks in the churches. So if there's a need with your pastoral family, please let us know so that we can be able to minister through the Burden Bearers Ministry. And then if you know another fundamental Baptist church in the area that a pastor has a need, again, let us know. We'd like to be glad to help out there. So sign up. You can either give me that form today, give me a check today, it has your address on it. You can mail that in to us, but we would be glad to get you on the mailing list. And again, as you get that mailer in the spring or the fall, the choice is up to you what you do with it. We don't police it. We don't have any idea of knowing, who gave 100% of the time or 50% of the time or anything like that. Here's a testimony from someone who received a gift, rather, and I don't take time to read that. My eyes aren't doing too well right now. But you can read that and understand these gifts are greatly appreciated. And I've had men with tears in their eyes come to me and say, man, that really met the need. And it was of a timely nature of the Lord. I had one pastor who told me that they had they were going through their mail that day, and they had a bill for, I think it was $1,200. Had no idea whether they were going to pay that $1,200. And then they opened up in that same mail, and there was a letter from Burden Bearers. There's a gift for $1,000 to help meet that need. So it's just amazing how the Lord works and uses that. So get involved in Burden Bearers. We also have church planting stories to tell you. Now, Resurrection Baptist in Woodbury, I wish I had better news to share with you, but on September 11th of this year, they closed the ministry down. I'm very much convinced it was a COVID casualty. Remember, they are in the Twin City Metroplex area, and back when COVID was going on, our governor had announced that homes could not have any more than 11 people in the church or in their home. And so the church there in Woodbury, they were meeting in the Gilbertsons' home. And so when they could not have more than 11 people there, their attendance just, plummeted. They had nowhere to meet, so they tried to meet by Zoom, and so they were losing their following through that as well. And it finally got to the point that even when the restrictions were lifted, to try to gain back the momentum that they had earlier gotten, gotten is a word. My English teacher's coming back to haunt me and visit with me. But anyway, they just couldn't carry on the ministry. So they had sold their assets, and they are looking to move on. I don't know, people ask me what are the Gilbertsons doing now. They're just involved in a local church. They wanted to wait about 6 months before they decided to see if they want to go back in ministry, if they want to try something different, or what's going on. Oh, I should share with you in regard to church planting. That doesn't mean that we've given up on church planting. We have found out that one of our churches up in Duluth, that they they are currently doing Bible studies. I believe it's in Silver Bay, and so they are seeking to get a work going in Silver Bay as well. So there's little pockets of things that are taking place, and so please pray for us that we can get more churches started in the state. You know, if we don't plant the churches, who's going to plant them? You know, the Lutherans aren't going to plant regular Baptist churches, so we need to make sure that we're doing that. All right, people ask me about my ministry. What do? I do a lot of consulting, working with pastorless churches. We have 2 pastorless churches in the state right now, and so those churches are in Hibbing and Winnebago. And so you can pray for those churches as we seek God's man. I do the work of a mediator as well. As a mediator, sometimes I'm invited to come in and visit with pastor or deacons or pastor in a congregation in regard to a situation maybe in the church and how to handle it, what to do. Won't get into a lot of details there. Working with churches seeking more to know about the NARBC, and so I've done that. When Pastor Lynn Scott was here, and you guys were looking to join with the NARBC, Pastor Greg and I had sat down on many occasions and talked that through and tried to do an examination to get an idea as to what that would look like. And then also a pastor to the pastors. You know, who pastors your pastor? Who encourages him? Who lifts him up? I know you try to do that, but that's also a ministry that we have, is to try to encourage those who are in ministry to go the distance. I know 2 years ago at our state meetings, I had preached or not really preached, but taught a workshop, and on a workshop at those meetings, it was about knowing when it's time to quit. People thought I was trying to chase them out of their ministry and everything, but, you know, pastors want to know that. You know, how do I know when my work here is done? This past year, we taught a session on how to have a long-term ministry, and so that turned to be very profitable. You know, most of us in Minnesota, how long have you been here? Three. That's the coffee or something. I don't know.
I said we need to get more.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we've got a lot of men in the state who have been in their ministry for many, many years. I've been in the ministry I'm in right now. This will be our 23rd year. Phil Steepke's over at Sleepy Eye. He's been there since, I think, Sleepy Eye was founded. So I think he was there in like 1978 or something like that. John Running to the north of you, he's been up there since, I think, '02. But we've got a lot of guys that have been in their pastoral ministries for over 20 years, and that's an abnormality. And so I think we are doing some good things to keep our pastors in state. I gotta hurry, else I'm not gonna have time for camp. What else do we do? Well, we do a lot of promoting. So we have a website, narbc.org. You can go to that. That website is currently under construction, so you probably won't see much more than this homepage if you go there right now. But I would encourage you to go to that website and find out news and information as to what's going on in our state. We also have a newsletter that's called it's called the Minnesota Baptist Messenger, MBM, and we put this out about every 2 months. We'll be putting together an issue, Lord willing, this week as well. And so in there we will talk about newsworthy items of regular Baptists. So, for example, we have a new pastor that's coming into the state. We have an assistant pastor that is coming into the state. We'll be having an article on him. We'll be talking about different events that have happened. We'll either promote it or give a review of what happened at that. And if you would like to know a little bit more about what's happening in our circles, I would encourage you to get involved and sign up for this. Now, the tricky part here is we've gone digital, so we don't do paper copies. I used to be the editor, and I'd have to take it to a print shop and print them, and then we would stuff envelopes, and then we'd have to mail them, and then it'd be several days longer until people got it. And so it was one of those things that the news wasn't news, it was old. And so we thought we could do it much more efficiently through email. So if you would like to get involved on this and get involved in our email newsletter, just jot your email address on a note, a paper for me, and give it to me, and we'll make sure that we get you on that list. All right? What else? Lawsuit update. I mentioned very briefly a lawsuit last night, and just share with you, it's kind of like, talk to my lawyer about this, and that's what our lawyer tells us to tell people as well. But people say, well, give us some specifics so we know what we're praying for and what's going on and what's taking place. And I'll just tell you in a very generic sense, in May of 2021, I got a notice from a man who is not a member of this church, not this church, but a regular Baptist church in the state, and he says, I want you to know that I'm going to be taking one of your churches to court, and it's for a defamation case. he told me the circumstances that were going on, and I thought, this is ridiculous. But anyway, he can take people to court if he wants to take people to court. So I was scheduled, prearranged, to be up there 10 days after I got the email from this guy. And so I got up there, and that year, as I was making the rounds, I was preaching a message on church unity, keeping our eyes focused on Christ. It's not focused on COVID. It's not focused on this January 6th rebellion that went up. Keep your eyes focused on Christ. That's what our mission is. And let's have church unity. Well, he understood my message to be a message that was galvanizing the church against him. Be unified. Be for your pastor. Be for this deacon. Be for the church, and be against this guy. That wasn't the purpose of my message, but that's how he interpreted it. So he said, well, I'm going to throw Friar and the MARBC in the lawsuit as well. Oh boy, that's fun. I've never been involved in any form of litigation before. The MARBC had to hire an attorney. We did not have any insurance coverage for this. And so we paid the bills as they came in. And folks in our churches and churches themselves gave gifts. I believe we had over $15,000 in lawyer fees that we ended up paying in order to have ourselves represented in court. And it was well worth the investment. I should share with you as I stand before you today, all the bills have been paid. And so there's nothing outstanding. On March 7th of this year, the case was dismissed with prejudice. So we're thankful for that. With prejudice means, in essence, the judge is kind of prejudged and there's not sufficient claim for them to bring this issue up again in any court of law. So he made an appeal in March, and then that appeal was just denied a couple weeks ago by the appellate court. So he does have recourse, and he could go to the Supreme Court, but everybody that I talk to says that is highly unlikely. So lessons are learned from that the words that we say, they are important, and how people can either interpret them or misinterpret them. That comes to bear. We need to get insurance for the MARBC, so we're doing some research on that for any possible future claims. New pastors in the state. We have a new pastor over in Albert Lee, Pastor Dwight McKenney. If you have a background with Pillsbury Baptist Bible College, he was an instructor there for many years. He also pastored over in Redwood Falls. And so he should not be totally foreign to you, but he just started his ministry there, I don't know, about 2 months ago, and having a good ministry. And then we have a new pastor. This just happened last week. Pastor Steve Pickray, he's from Adel, Iowa, will be coming up to First Baptist Church in Faribault. And so they will have a new shepherd. So pray for those men as they start their new ministry. Prayer requests. Pray for our pastoral churches, which we already mentioned. The search for insurance coverage as well. And then thirdly, our financial need. I did mention, I think it's this morning, that we had adopted a budget for the MARBC at our meetings by the churches, and it had about a $14,000 deficit, if I recall. And so we thought, well, how are we going to raise that $14,000? We still don't know, but we're making an appeal to churches. Everything has gone up in price. Gas is going up. You go out to eat, you get your groceries, everything's going up. And ministry goes up. Your church budget is probably going to go up. It's just the reality of life. And so we would encourage you to prayerfully consider the needs of the state fellowship if you could provide some sort of increase there to help. All right, Bass Lake Camp. Hopefully I have the voice long enough to get us through this one as well. So summer review, I'm just going to put some pictures up there. I know that's old FaceTime. I cannot see the monitor in the back. It's on, but I can't read it. I can read this one, so that's why I'm turning and looking on it. But anyway, a lot of pictures of kids and fun times that we've had at camp, and we rejoice in what God is doing, and we have a lot of activities that keep the kids busy and active while they are there, so that as we share the ministry of the Word of God, they're encouraged through the process of being at camp. Some new things at camp, we had our blacktop resurfaced. That was in woeful disrepair. I felt ashamed every time I would give somebody a tour of the camp, and between that and one of our bathrooms, boys' restrooms, I always felt embarrassed by that. But we got this one addressed. I had called some asphalt companies, and the cost of this was going up and up and up. I remember I called about 10 years ago, it was $13,000. I called like 2 years ago, and they gave me a quote of $26,000. It doubled in price. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do? Well, there was another company in Mankato Some of you may know that we had a problem with our roof in our dining hall and in our canteen, not canteen, our chapel area. And so the water was dripping on the floor every time it would rain. And so we got that fixed and settled, so we're grateful for that. And financially, we were able to provide that with the gifts that came in through churches. I don't know what you call this contraption. I guess the new term is geodome. When I was a kid, we called them monkey bars, and we would climb on them and everything. And so we've got that as another activity for some of our younger campers. Encourage you to come to family camp this year. Often when we think of camp, we don't think of family camp, but yes, we do have a ministry toward families, and we've had a very profitable time with our families as they come and have reunions and opportunity to get involved. Stop and think you can do all the activities of the camp. You don't have to cook, you don't have to do dishes or anything like that, as we provide all those things for you. Some terrific Bible teaching, and this year, Dr. Dwight Lapine will be our speaker. These are last year's rates, so I'm sure it's going to go up a little bit, maybe 10% or so, but it's not going to go up significantly. I say that. Mike Polsizer, are you here? Yeah, there you are. He's on the finance committee, so he has to say that. What's that?
He shares it.
Yeah, he shares it, so he has to say that. But we'll be setting rates for camp in about a month or so and getting that all settled. But that gives you an idea of roughly what the price is to come to family camp. And I would challenge you, I know it's not up north, but I would challenge you to try to get a cabin up north that would have all your meals provided for you, have a program provided for you, have good Christian friends all around you, have good Christian teaching, and pay that amount. You just won't find anything like that in the state. And so that's a great opportunity for you. A lot of youth camps, and here's some pictures of junior camp and then junior high camp will also be coming a little bit later in July. And then also senior high camp. And so brother, what's his name, Peter Wright from Maranatha Baptist University will be our speaker for senior high camp, and looking forward to him. I heard him at a youth rally at the Grace Baptist in Mankato, and I thought, man, I'd love to get that guy to come to camp. Went past one there real quick. So we also have a primary camp. This is a 3-day camp to introduce kids to camp. Have you guys ever sent anybody to primary camp?
I don't think so.
Okay. This has been a real delight. We didn't know how this was going to go, so we kind of tested it. Well, if we could get 20 kids there, that would make it worthwhile. And now we're near 40. I mean, it's in the mid-upper 30s that we're running now. And so it's a real encouragement. It's a two overnights. So they start on Monday, they're dismissed Wednesday breakfast. And it's a real delight to see the kids. They have all sorts of energy and excitement as they come. And I think after about that brief period of time, we're kind of ready for them to go. They kind of wear us down too. We have what we call the early bird discount. So I want to encourage you that when we do get our camp brochures out next month, that you are quick to get registrations in. I believe the way the process is for your church here is that you guys are covering a lot of the registration fees, so you get an early bird rate, and then that makes it so much easier for you guys as you come and register. A little bit of a nightmare headache for him, I guess. But anyway, if you get it in by May 1st, it will save you some money off the cost of camp. We do have a work weekend, and I know that the church has participated in this before a couple years ago, and we would cherish your involvement again. It's always hard to get people to come out to camp and spend a Saturday just to help us getting the cabins cleaned up and getting the grounds presentable, and we will be doing that on the weekend of May 19th and 20th. And so you'll see names of people who have come out from last year and where they are from, and you'll just see we get people that come from all over the state, way up north near Brainerd, and so we got people that are coming from the Duluth area as well, and there's plenty of work for you to do and to get involved and to join us. So hopefully you'll be able to take part in that project. We do need a lot of volunteers at camp, and so you'll see a lot of cooks that are coming for our kitchen. We have a lot of counselors, volunteer youth workers that come and work with the kids. We need help with maintenance. We need help. We have somebody that drives a boat for us. There's always all sorts of jobs that need to get done at camp. And so if you can come and be a volunteer for us, that would really be a blessing. And I like to remind people, be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. Sometimes we're just comfortable in our own little world. We don't think about serving outside our little sphere. But take a 2.5 hour, if you drive real slow, 3-hour drive to camp, and you can come on over for a Saturday and get involved and have a people from your church. It'll be a real blessing, and I think the Lord will bless you for it. So your help is needed in so many areas at camp, and so I list these things up here for you. The items in red are the items of greatest need, and having said that, I have the office in the area of red, and we just came up with somebody this week that's going to fill much of our office need. We have a teen staff, and so if you'd like to come and work at camp as a teenager, we'd love to have you, and so there's the parameters for that. After completed the 7th grade, you're recommended by your pastor, and we will pay you for your week of work. We pay you weekly, very weekly, and so you will have a little bit of income to buy something. A couple of fun. Lifeguard, we're looking to hire a lifeguard for camp as well, a head cook to help us at camp and help in the responsibilities. And so a head cook would be somebody that would be there for each and every week of camp, not just for 1 week of camp. Staff supervisor to serve as a supervisor and a leadership role, shepherding role, our teenagers that are there at camp, and we also need lots of counselors. So we have full-time counselors that are there throughout the whole summer. Last year we only had one, and that's why I say our recruiting numbers were really down last year. So we relied heavily on churches to help us meet that need. This year we'll probably have at least 5 or 6, and maybe as many as 8 that will be there. So that will be a real help for us. But we need you to come and help as a counselor as well. We're in a building program right now, and I'll just share with you, that is one of our architects that are drawing, our designer who drew that building to show us what it's going to look like. This is going to be slated for our boys' cabin area, and I know this floor plan is kind of hard to see on here. I've been told that the laser pointer doesn't do much good on here, but you'll see that there's an interior room, and that interior room is where the showers are going to be. So you won't have to go outside and go to another building to shower. That'll be nice. It'll have full HVAC with it, so that will be a handy benefit to have air conditioning in the summer and also have heat if we do an off-season rental. Here's a picture with the roof taking off of the building to give you a little bit of a design. We've tweaked this just a little bit from what this was originally given to us, but 4 rooms that will sleep 12 each. So if we did like a winter retreat, we could have a winter retreat with 40 young people, and that would be really nice for the south part of the state. So we look forward to that, off-season rentals. If you as a family would like to come